well, let me start out first here, Nicole, before, pardon me, let's get this straight. It's Nicole Marie and then Nicole P. We have to separate these two ladies. So
you have told everybody my middle name.
Yeah. So thought we'd better get started. Well, okay, we're on a little uncharted territory here. First of all, good morning and welcome. We are the Community Advisory Board known as CAB. Our board was established by the Community Corrections Partnership known as CCP. Before we get to introductions, just have a brief comment or so, or comments. As many of you know, we have received notification of the resignation of Jonte as our chair. Item 3 on our agenda will address that particular situation. While this is unsettling, we will also have to reassess some of our committee participation. All of us are going to have to kind of take a look in the mirror here and are going to have to step up. However, our work will continue. It'll be shared as it has been in the past. And while our situation appears to be somewhat tenuous, help is on the way in the form of item number 6 on our agenda, which will be the nominations for interested citizens who desire to become CAB members. 3 individuals will be presented to you. And again, let me repeat, help is on the way. So let's get started here. Let's move to introductions. Can you kind of call the roll and then we'll go from there, Nicole.
Ozzy.
I believe she's having some
connection issues. Okay, yes. Crawford.
Here.
Dale.
Here.
Lila.
Here.
Mark.
Here.
Paul Green.
Here.
And Dr. Cole.
Here.
All members. It looks like folks are introducing themselves in chat right now, Crawford.
Excellent then, excellent. Next, may we go to announcements? Are there any announcements?
Good morning, everyone. Tiffany Anaya, lead reentry coach with the Reentry Success Center. The Reentry Success Center, in partnership with the Contra Costa County Public Defender's Office Clean Slate team, will be hosting a Clean Slate Date on Friday, April 8th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. here at the Reentry Success Center in Richmond. We're really excited to be offering another record expungement, community resources, and more to the community as our first Clean Slate Day of the year. In addition, we're also scheduled to begin one of our alpha cohorts. Our cognitive behavioral program is scheduled to begin Monday, April 11th. So if you have any individuals who could benefit from the program, please refer them to us. Thank you.
And thank you very much for attending and for your announcement. Let's go now to item number 2 on our agenda, which is—
Crawford, this is Lila. I have an announcement as well.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm Lila Blanchard. I'm on the board and I also work for Rubicon Programs, and I did want to announce to folks that Rubicon Programs is hiring. Please go to www.rubiconprograms.org for our career openings there. And we are also continuing to accept referrals to my email address. Yeah, for folks who are looking for parenting classes or also looking for assistance with re-entering the community after incarceration. And that's my announcement. Thank you, Crawford.
And thank you, Lila. And let's slow up here. Any more announcements? Let's go around the table. Dawn? Are there any more announcements? We don't want to leave anybody out.
I don't see any more hands raised at this time, Crawford.
Okay, fine then. may we then move to item number 2 on our agenda? Is there any public comment on any item specifically under the jurisdiction of our Community Advisory Board that is not on this particular agenda? And let me ask again, are there any other public announcements on any item under our agenda? Or comment, I'm sorry.
I'm also not seeing any hands.
Okay, good, thank you. Let's move to item number 3, cab officer elections. This is the business at hand, and we are now tasked with electing a new chair. Nicole, can you assist us in moving through this process so we can get down to this particular business item?
Sure. So I'm just sharing my screen at this time, just kind of showing you kind of where we currently stand with vacancies. As far as officer vacancies, right now we have a cab chair, the overall cab chair vacancies. So that is typically the first order of business is to fill that before we move forward with other agenda items. So Crawford, you would be seeking a motion to nominate one of the members to cab chair. And
Thank
depending
you.
on the outcome of that, we will assess if there's other officer elections that we need to address.
Thank you, Nicole P. Okay, let's move then to the floor for nominations for chair of cab.
I see Dale has his hand up.
Yes, this is Dale Harrington. I nominate Crawford Carpenter to the chair position.
Are there any other nominations, please? Going once, going twice. You may have made a mistake, but we'll see how this, how all of this plays out. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any discussion?
Monique, were you lifting up your hand?
I was just gonna mention that it needed to have a second, so, but you guys did what you were supposed to do, so thank you.
Okay. Again, any discussion? Are there any other items to discuss? Okay, would you call the vote, please, Nicole?
Just want to open it up for public comment before
Oh,
we do that.
excuse me, public comment.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, well, this place reminds me of crickets, for Pete's sake. Okay, let's.
I will continue with roll call vote. Ozzy,
Aye.
Crawford,
Abstain.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Yes, and I.
Mark,
Yes.
Nicole Green,
Aye.
and Dr. Cole.
Aye.
Okay. The motion passes unanimously. So since you were vice chair, Crawford, we would be at the position to now elect a vice chair, and just wanted to put out there that if for whatever nomination, whoever accepts that nomination, vice chair is by default the chair of policy and budget. So just wanted to put that out there as you consider your accepting the nomination.
Okay, let's go to the floor. Are there any nominations for vice chair of CAB?
Are you able to nominate yourself? Because I made you a promise, Crawford.
I think you can.
I
Go
will, I
ahead.
will, I will keep my promise. I'll nominate myself.
Okay.
I will second that nomination.
All right. Are there any other nominations for interested individuals? Let me repeat. Are there any other nominations? None being heard. Let's
Can I just
move.
make a public comment? So Nicole, with your nomination, that would mean that you were, I guess you could technically be still be the chair of programs and services if you wanted to. But because you're the default to policy and budget, I just wanted to highlight that as you consider.
I'm thinking as you talk to him, like, I don't know if I could do both, but I made a promise that I'm gonna, so whatever changes I have to make, I do want to support CAB. So I would, do what I need to.
Okay. Any other discussion? On my screen, I don't see any hands up. Do we now move to a vote?
Yeah, I'm sorry, can you tell me who nominated, or it was a self-nomination, so I guess Nicole Green, you were the first, and who was second that?
I did, Dale.
Dale, okay. Okay, and then no public comment? Okay, Ozzy. I'm not sure. Ozzy, are you able to unmute yourself for vote? Okay, I'll come back to her. Crawford.
Aye.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Crawford.
Aye.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Nicole, Green,
Aye.
okay. And Dr. Cole.
Aye.
Okay, so since Nicole Green was secretary, now we have to put a motion on the floor for the secretary officer position.
Are there any nominations for the secretary position of CAB? May I nominate someone, or is that inappropriate?
Can I suggest that you do a quick overview of secretary, because I don't think it's as complex as it maybe used to be. So maybe a quick overview of what that entails.
Thank you, Jill. Nicole, Nicole P.
Or Nicole Green or myself?
No, P. And then Green, you could step in afterwards.
I mean, I will say that I think the operating guidelines are somewhat outdated because it does speak to the secretary managing attendance and the calendar for CAB, and that actually has been kind of absorbed by our office. So I know traditionally we've had the secretary do the minutes for the full body meetings with our support. And if we review the bylaws, it's essentially, right, if the CAB chair is not here, then the vice chair steps in. And I believe the vice chair would be the secretary that would step in if neither the chair or the vice chair were here, which is, I've never seen happen. But like Jill was saying, it's pretty minimal as far as, I guess, the level of effort.
Years ago, you'd have to be required to type a certain number of words per minute.
I don't think that that's a requirement.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And they also, all the officers help with the retreat, but since the retreat has already passed, if they choose to be secretary next year, they would help. As you saw, Nicole Green was part of that leadership team that was helping with the retreat and facilitating that those presentations.
And Nicole Marie, could you please comment on?
Yes. So
the role?
yes, just to piggyback off of what Nicole P said, she pretty much captured everything. Majority of the time, it was more of me just keeping the notes in case the chair or vice chair had any questions on previous conversations that we held. So like she said, I wasn't responsible for putting anything together for our meetings. It's just tracking notes for like calls such as this, and having that support for that vice chair or chair.
Thank you. Jill, do you think that covered an overview of the position of secretary?
I'm sorry, I just got an email. I honestly, I think the two people, the two
I'll
Nicoles,
answer.
the two Nicoles
This is
that
Dawn.
spoke up, I
I'll
think,
answer. It was a good explanation.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Don. Thank you, and thank you, Jill. We're back to my question. Is it appropriate or inappropriate for me to nominate someone? Or may I? I got to look to you, Nicole P. or-
Anyone can nominate anyone, Crawford, so jump to
Okay,
it.
then I'll nominate Lila for secretary.
I'll second that. This is Dale. I'll second that.
This is Lila, and I would like to nominate Dr. Cole.
Okay, we have two nominations there, Lila and Dr. Cole. I guess the procedure is, okay, we have two nominations. We'll come to the seconds. Nate, is there a third nomination then?
We would usually discuss those that were nominated, if they accept the nomination, and kind of go from there.
Oh, all right, then let's step back. Lila? Are you?
I am a yes if there are no other folks to accept the nomination. So I am a tentative yes.
Thank you, Lila. Dr. Cole, if elected, would you accept?
Crawford, thank you for that. I'm going to have to abstain this position currently. And due to, bandwidth currently it's not there. But yet I'm still here to work through CAB, and I want to continue to do so.
Thank you very much and understand. Thank you, Terrence, for your candor.
And I have a little more candor to add to this conversation as well. I have been secretary with the prior board that I served on. And I wanted to clarify, it sounds like this individual will need to attend all of the planning events for the general CAB meetings, etc.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Yes, so we do have agenda planning meetings that we do with the officers offline to coordinate agendas and whatnot.
Got it. Great. I, have a commitment to the folks that I am currently working with and supervising right now. And so I guess I'll just put it out there one more time if there's anyone else who would like to self-nominate or any other nominations before we move forward with this.
I'd like to nominate Ozzy.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. But at this particular time, I too need to abstain from the position.
Oh, this is becoming comical.
Well, let's
I
not
am
make,
going to ask if Dale Harrington would like to do this. I know he's on a bunch of boards, but he would also be amazing at this. And then I will, I might have another nomination up my sleeve. I'm not sure.
I appreciate your comment. I would prefer that you be the secretary, Lila. I have time ahead of me that I can certainly serve, and I'd be glad to.
are there any other nominations for secretary?
Yes, Crawford. I would like to nominate Mark Thomas.
Mark, you have been nominated.
Well, unfortunately, I have to declined. Now, when I first started working with the cabin stuff, I was totally unemployed, had been laid off, but now I have 2 jobs. I'm part-time psychology instructor and I've been driving Lyft full-time. So I don't seem to have the time right now. So I appreciate it, but I'll decline.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Okay, since there are no other nominations then, is there any public comment? Let me repeat again, is there any public comment?
Not seeing any hands.
Okay, none being heard, could we put it to a vote?
I just wanted to double confirm that Lila, you're accepting the nomination.
Oh, you're on mute.
I headed into this meeting with a goal that I did not quite just achieve. But I know folks can see my reticence, but I will, move some things around and make it as light as possible by leaning on all of the good folks in this community. So thank you. I accept it.
So I think we had initial motion by Crawford and a second by Dale for Lila already. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll do a roll call vote. Ozzy,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Nicole Green,
Aye.
and Dr. Cole.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Lila, if there are things from time to time that I could do to help you and ease some of your load, I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you, Dale. I will lean on you for that. I appreciate it.
You can follow up with ORJ, or ORJ can follow up with you afterwards, Lila, because we're also support to you as well. So
Nicole, I have a question for Nicole P. I have a question. Just in case we run into a situation where we have a position and no one's elected. In the interim, what happens? Do we come back to that? Do we find an alternative to that? What happens when that
question, according to bylaws, we're not able to move forward with business without a full officers on board is what the bylaws say, but I have not seen that happen. Maybe Jill or Dawn can speak to instances that they've seen on other bodies if they ran into this issue. Where there was a lack of
I've never seen
whatever
it.
reason, people, conflicts that could.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've seen reticent people step forward. Thank you, Lila. But I've never seen an issue where people didn't step forward.
Well, I guess, Nicole, that's something just to put on the table for future reference.
It's definitely noted. Thank you.
Thank you then. Well, looks like we have a new board here. And thank you, Nicole Marie, for accepting the vice chair's position. Many thanks to you also, to Lila, for accepting the secretary's position. And now let's move to another item that's kind of a sub-item of this area. We need to discuss here for a moment or two our committee assignments. And can you maybe, you have your chart up here.
Yes.
So we may have a potential conflict, and that would be Nicole Green was the prior chair of program and services. She now becomes the automatic chair of policy and budget.
Correct.
So do we have a workaround here for policy and budget first? But maybe before we do that, we do have a serious problem, and I underline serious, with outreach and community engagement. They did not have a chair, so I was just the temporary chair. And we need to also consider, as we're thinking about the various subcommittees here, so that we do get appropriate representation on all of our committees. So I'll just make that point. And now, Nicole, let me turn that back over to you.
Yeah, I guess that we can start by subcommittee, start with outreach. I think that the point that Crawford's trying to make was that he was meant to be a temporary chair there. And as you can see, we have Mark Thomas and Kenya Allen. Darrell Michael was assigned during the retreat, but unfortunately I had not been able to connect with them. So right now I am really treating him as if he's off that committee right now temporarily till we get confirmation that he can even be on that committee. So right now it's a committee of 3. I know, Mark, you had shared some, as you shared earlier, some hesitation to do chair because of the other with your work and your jobs going on and other commitments. So, and I know Kenya had a similar conflict. So, but we do have 3 members we have to keep in mind that are in our next couple agenda items. So I guess the question is if we can leave the outreach as is for now, because I anticipate that will significantly improve in the next month.
Okay, that's fine. And Nicole, I'll continue to work with the individuals on outreach and community engagement. How's that?
Okay, so we'll just leave this as is, but just
All right.
keeping in mind that your presence there is temporary until we can get more members. And then programs and services, Nicole, we have you designated as chair, but I also wanted to highlight that Lila and Dr. Cole were temporarily on here to help with quorum because their preference was policy and budget.
I would, if I can add, I don't know if that's a lot. I gotta think about how to figure this out. So I have to take over both of them, policy and budget and program services, right?
You don't have to, right?
Okay.
By default, you're on policy and budget as chair due to the operating guidelines and how they've, set that up. You're not forced to be the chair of programs and services. It's up to you to decide if you want to continue doing that. Like I said, for outreach, the same thing. We do have 3 members that will be hopefully onboarding here come mid-April. So I feel like this is only going to be a problem for next week's meetings because our meetings are all next week. They're for March.
Well,
so
I'll do it for
positive thoughts there as far as we do have 3 members that will hopefully be joining us next month.
Is there a possibility if we could ask Dale, you are the vice chair, if we could see if Dale would consider moving up to chair of the programs and services? That would sure be a great assist to us.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I would be glad to move up if Nicole Green feels that she, would be overloaded with being the chair of 2 of the committees.
I would greatly appreciate it because I think it will be a lot on top of what I have also at work. So I don't want to put too much on my plate and can't handle it.
Okay, then I would be glad to accept the chair position.
Thank you very much, Dale.
So as far as vice chairs, I think we can handle that in the meeting themselves.
Yes.
I know that doesn't show a vice chair right now, but we can just address that in the next meeting. But my question would be for Dr. Nicole and Lila is if, at least for next week's meeting, if you'd be able to attend to allow us to make quorum until we work out the members that'll be joining us here in the next month.
Absolutely. And I can actually, one or the other, Dale, if it's a bit too much, I can shift to chair if you want to continue to be vice chair. Just depends, or if necessary, I can shift to temporary vice chair. However, it seems to be more that however we can finagle it a little bit easier in reference to, because Nicole, knows programs and services like the back of her hand, so we can get some assistance through her. But however, if we need to, work that out, whatever's comfortable for you, in moving forward, Dale, I'm willing to do either or, temporary until we get people in place.
Well, Dr. Cole, because you have more experience here, I think it would be more appropriate if you are the chair and then I continue as the vice chair.
Sound like a plan. Let's do it.
Okay, good.
And a quick response, I am happy to come to the next programs and services meeting, and I can confirm if that's, yes, I will plan on coming to the next meeting, and I know that there may be some additional assignments here coming shortly. And I just want to put this out there as things are moving around and folks are considering things. Sometimes people just jump in right away to different opportunities. And so, experience it can be a factor, but it's definitely not a requirement for, any of these different roles. And thank you, Dr. Cole and Dale for that.
Okay, so what I have here for programs and services looks as what we discussed, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
but Dr. Cole would not be a temporary chair, I don't think.
Well, he was a temporary member,
Right.
so unless I misunderstood, because you still intend to devote your time, Dr. Cole, to policy and budget once we get more members, correct?
Yes.
And step
Yeah.
off of programs and services, so that's why I was just putting temporary.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Okay, so policy and budget. So Nicole is by default the chair there. And then I guess one question I have for Crawford is if you still wanted to be a member in that space.
Does that confuse things, or do you need me there for quorum?
If there's 4 people, quorum is 3. If there's 5, quorum is still 3. So actually, it's not going to make. I'm saying that right? Yeah, 4 members. It's 3. Yeah, so it doesn't change quorum if you're there or not. And I guess it's more of a question if you want to be in that space and participate in that space as a member, you're welcome to. But just that would be my first question.
Okay, I'll stay in the space to participate.
Okay. And I guess that doesn't really change much then. So Nicole's the chair, vice chair would still remain Aussie, and then recorder. Those things again can be addressed in the meeting itself if they need to shift those roles, but I think that we're good.
Okay.
So I guess
Prior,
the motion would be to approve as presented here. If you guys don't have any, you can continue to discuss, but that would be the motion that we're seeking.
okay, we have a motion for the committee assignments as listed on your screen to be presented.
This is Dale. I so move.
Okay, so we have a second. Now let's go to public comment. Well,
This is Lila. I'm sorry. One question before we move to public comment. Is there anyone on the phone who wants to be added to any of these that is currently already on the board that wants to be added to any of these, or this is set? And I'll understand a silence as everybody is good where they're at, but I'm just curious. All right, thank you.
I think the only call out, and I don't think we need to address this now, is that come when the 3 members that we hope to approve today are on board. Hopefully the next meeting in April 15th. It's April 19th, I think it is. I don't know. It's coming up. That they would need to choose a subcommittee at that time.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, any public comment again? Let's make sure we don't try to move too fast. Any public comment? Do you see any hands being raised? I don't see any on my screen.
Hands raised.
Okay,
Crawford, were you the first to make the motion and Dale was the second, correct?
yes.
Okay, so roll call vote. Ozzy,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Yes.
Mark,
Aye.
Nicole Green,
Aye.
Dr. Cole.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much there, Nicole. And again, we'll be covering some other items here on our agenda, particularly in item number 6. For when we move to that particular item, as you can see, for the 3 people that we will be presenting, I hope that those individuals will really give some consideration to the 2 committees that appear to be in need. And we only ask that you do that respectfully. All right, then, let's move to item number 4. We got to pick up the pace here a little bit on some of these other things, if we might, because we have a presentation and we want to give the clerk's office the opportunity to present to us. Let's move to item number 4, approval of record of actions from our February 9th board meeting. All of you have received those minutes. We'll give you 1 more minute to take a look at them, go through those notes, or maybe 2 minutes. And then if we could have a vote for approval or of any revisions to that particular.
That would be February 9th and the 10th, the 2 days of the retreat.
Yes, as it states here on item number 4, February 9th and February 10th. So please just take a few moments, but again, this has been sent to you, so you should have had an opportunity to look at the information. All right, is there a nomination or nomination? Do we have somebody that will ask for approval?
This is Dale. I move that we approve both of the sets of minutes.
Is there a second?
This is Nicole. I second it.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Is there any public comment? May we have any discussion? None being, let's go to a vote, please.
Ozzy, come back. Ozzy Crawford,
Aye.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Nicole Green,
Aye.
Dr. Cole.
Aye.
And I think I see Ozzy has a comment in chat. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We're going to now move to item number 5 on your agenda. Those of you that have the packet, it'll be attachment 4, pages 14 through 24. And we are pleased to have with us here Lauren Hall, who's going to give us a presentation regarding the Brown Act and the Board of Governance review. So the floor is yours, Lauren, and thank you so very much for joining us.
Of course. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Again, my name is Lauren. I'm the management analyst in the clerk of the board's office. And I'm just going to give a quick presentation on the Brown Act and other laws that affect county advisory bodies. The main focus is going to be on the changes to the Brown Act that took effect last year. All the other information can be found in our required training videos that the county offers. So before we get started, I also just want to point out that the Community Advisory Board is a little different than other advisory bodies because it's technically an advisory body to an advisory body. So just kind of keep that in mind, that caveat that things covered in this presentation might be a little bit different because of the status of CAB. All right, can we go to the next slide? Thanks, Nicole. So the two offices that support boards and commissions in terms of compliance with laws and policies are primarily my office, the clerk of the board, and the county counsel's office. The role of the clerk of the board's office is to provide support to help advisory bodies follow all applicable laws and policies. We mostly work with those relating to open meeting requirements, the appointment and resignation process, updates to bylaws, and just the overall context and scope for advisory bodies. We often work closely with the county counsel's office because they're the attorney for the county, including for the Board of Supervisors and for boards and commissions. So their role is to help us interpret, understand, and follow the law. So it's important to remember that the clerk of the board's office plays more of an informational role. We're not lawyers and we don't really have the authority to interpret the law or give legal advice, but we are always happy to help with any questions that come up and can refer you to anyone to help get the answer to any questions. If you do have a question for us or for county counsel, it's best practice to reach out to your staff liaison first. So Nicole P. She can either help you answer the question or she can refer it to us and we will help find the right person to get you an answer. All right, next slide, please. Most of you should have already been familiar with the Brown Act training and the ethics training, so I'm going to move kind of quickly through this overview of laws and policies, and then for the rest of the presentation, I'm just going to mostly focus on the new additions to the law that took place last year and that aren't covered in the video trainings. So the rules that advisory bodies have to follow come from a variety of sources. At the highest level, there's federal laws that can affect the operations of a body. Then at the state law level, there's laws like the government code that govern advisory bodies, things like the Brown Act, which, as you know, governs open meeting requirements, is the main law at the state level. And then after the state level, there's the local level, which includes things like ordinances and resolutions that are passed by the Board of Supervisors. Contra Costa County has the Better Government Ordinance, which has stricter requirements for open meetings than the state law does at the Brown Act. So in Contra Costa County, we're subject to a little bit more stringent requirements for things. And then at the most basic level, there's department and organizational policies or procedures. So that's things like your bylaws and just policies that affect you on that lower level. Okay, next slide, please. So as you might recall from the open meeting laws training, the Brown Act promotes transparency in government operations. The purpose of the law is to give advance notice of what government bodies are doing and to foster public participation in the governmental decision-making process. Open meeting laws require that the Board of Supervisors and its advisory bodies take certain actions to ensure public notice and participation. For example, a majority of board members cannot use a series of communications of any kind to discuss or take action on any matter that's within their subject matter jurisdiction. So that applies to direct communications between board members, such as phone calls or emails, but it also applies to indirect communications through intermediaries, such as a staff member. Such a series of outside communications by a majority of the board is commonly referred to as an unlawful serial meeting. So it takes place under a series of communications instead of just between a couple of people. Okay, next slide, please. When the Brown Act was enacted in 1953, the communications technology that was available was obviously quite different from the tools that we use today. So the internet, email, social media are all communication methods that could potentially affect the rules of the Brown Act. So to address serial meetings on social media, Assembly Bill 992 was introduced during the 2020 session of the California legislature, and it went into effect on January 1st of last year. It specifically addresses the permissible and impermissible use of social media as it relates to Brown Act requirements. Next slide, please. So AB 992 amended the Brown Act and governs communications by board or commission members on all internet-based social media platforms that are open and accessible to the public. So that includes your typical things like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but it also includes things like comment sections on blogs or comment sections on news articles and that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So the new rules affirm that a board member or commissioner can engage in separate conversations about the agency business on any internet-based social media platform that's open and accessible to the public for the following specific purposes: for answering questions, providing information to the public, or soliciting information from the public regarding a matter that's in their subject matter jurisdiction. So before this law, it was a little bit unclear how the use of social media could affect Brown Act regulations, but the new rules clarify that a board member can use their social media to communicate their positions to constituents and the public without causing a serial meeting of the board. Next slide, please. So there are still certain things that board members or commissioners cannot do, and the new rules provide specific instances of prohibited actions. So a majority of the members of a commission can't use social media to discuss among themselves business that's within their subject matter jurisdiction. So that includes anything that's posted or shared on social media. It also includes comments on other people's posts, even the use of like digital icons or emojis or emoticons that can express a reaction to a post. Using the like or dislike button is prohibited for members of the commission. Additionally, even if a majority of the board or commission isn't involved, one single board or commission member can't respond directly to any communication on a social media platform if it's about something in the subject matter jurisdiction of the body. So basically what that means is this new rule prohibits a second member from responding or reacting to a communication on social media, even when a board majority isn't involved in that communication. So that's one of the most important points and one of the most important changes. So I really want to emphasize even if a communication is only between two members on social media and it doesn't constitute a majority, that's still prohibited. Next slide, please. So given these new rules, there's some best practices to follow. It's best practice not to interact with any social media communications by other board or commission members that are even remotely related to the board or commission's subject matter jurisdiction. So things like liking posts, sharing them, commenting, posting emojis, it's best just to refrain from doing that on social media. Next slide, please. So this is a lot of information that doesn't really affect your advisory body. There were some changes last year to closed session and litigation requirements. In general, most advisory bodies don't hold closed session because there isn't anything that can be a proper topic for closed session. So just assume generally that your commission doesn't hold a closed session. And if you think that it should be, then consult with county counsel or office or our office first, and we can help guide you through the right way to do that. But really, this is not going to affect your commission too much. Next slide, please. So the last update that has been in the past couple of years is the ability of advisory bodies to hold virtual meetings in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. So before the pandemic, there were strict requirements on teleconference meetings, including that your location had to be accessible to the public and just a bunch of other rules that made it difficult to hold virtual meetings. So Assembly Bill 361 amended a section of the Brown Act to allow local agencies to use special teleconferencing rules that aren't as strict if there is a declared state of emergency. This temporary change is temporary. It will sunset on January 1st, 2024. Last year on October 5th, the Board of Supervisors adopted a resolution that directed all advisory bodies to meet remotely. At Tuesday's meeting, after this agenda was published, they made a change to that. Now it's only they're authorized to, but they're not required to anymore. So you're still authorized to meet remotely if you want to, but it's no longer a requirement from the Board of Supervisors. When that changes, your advisory body staff liaison will be notified, but that is currently the situation. Next slide, please. So that's about it for the changes. I know I went through that kind of fast. Here's a list of resources for where you can find more information, including our office, the county website, and where you can find the text of the actual Brown Act. The county website has information on trainings and other resources, including the Advisory Body Handbook, which covers a wide range of topics relating to advisory bodies, and our office is always available for any questions at all. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Are there any questions from first board members? Any questions, comments? Yes, Lila.
I was looking to get the Zoom button, but yeah, sometimes the hand is quicker. I was wondering, there was one point that you mentioned in the presentation that it can become a serial meeting if staff communicate through, if board members communicate through staff. Lauren, could you just say a little bit more about that, how that communication with staff could turn into a serial meeting?
Yeah, for sure. So let's say Commissioner A talks to Nicole about how they want to vote on a certain item or what they think about an item coming before the board. And then Commissioner B also contacts Nicole and is talking about it. And Nicole says, oh, Commissioner A wants to vote this way, or Commissioner A said this. Then that can become a serial meeting where Commissioner A never talked to Commissioner B, but they're still getting that information and that information is still being relayed to them. So it's technically considered a meeting that's unlawful under the Brown Act. Does that make sense?
Got it. So it's regarding mainly voting items and not necessarily work that needs to be done to set the agenda for the next meeting.
Right. That's a little bit different. As long as it's not things in the subject matter jurisdiction that you're, discussing what your opinion is or how you want to, setting the agenda is a little bit different because you have to be able to set an agenda to be able to discuss things at the meeting. But aside from that, anything that's about any action you're taking or things like that, of that nature.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, this is Dale. Lauren, thank you. It seems to me, or at least the difficulty that I have encountered is through emails, not social media, but through emails, where someone will email several other people. And then if we reply back and we reply all, then that throws it into the prohibition area rather, like you're talking about. So what we have tried to do is if we need to reply or feel we need to, we reply just to the person who sent it and not reply all. Is that consistent with what you would recommend to us?
Yes, it's best practice to only reply to one person, especially on, if there's an agenda that all members are CC'd on, replying all can create a problem for that. So yes, it's best practice to only reply to one person.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Jill? It looks like Jill has her hand
I was
up.
just going to bring up that same issue. And so oftentimes staff will just BCC the list, right? So that way they don't run into the reply all issue. Not all advisory body staff are doing that, but I think that's a best practice, right, Lauren?
Yes, agreed. Anyone
Are there
else?
any more questions for Lauren? Going once, going twice. Lauren, we really appreciate your information, the guidance, etc. And you're always welcome to join us.
Thank you very much. And like I said, any questions, we're here to help. So thanks for having me.
Excuse me, I do have a question. This is Dale. Lauren, could you provide the PowerPoint presentation to us? It's embedded in the attachments, but that's not easy to extract.
Yes, I will send it to Nicole if that works as just the PowerPoint file.
Wonderful.
I do have it, Lauren.
Okay,
So I
good.
can distribute it.
Lauren, you mentioned that a change has recently been made, though. What, the other day or something? So would you need to update the PowerPoint presentation?
It's just that one slide where you're not required to meet remotely any longer, but you are still authorized to.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's try it again. Public comment, board comment. Lauren, you're a hit. Any other comments here before we move on to the next item on our agenda? No. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Lila. Yes.
I think this is slightly related to what Lauren was just saying, but let me know if it's too off topic. So we are authorized to continue to meet remotely, but do we know for how long we're planning on continuing to meet remotely?
So currently it's every 30 days, the Board of Supervisors authorizes advisory bodies to meet remotely if they so choose. So that's reviewed every 30 days. And if that ever changes where you're not authorized to meet remotely, we will absolutely contact you all and let you know. Looks like Jill.
Yeah, I would just add to that it's all based on the governor's emergency order. So if the governor's emergency order is removed, then the authorization will be removed as well. The Board of Supervisors made their intention that they want to continue virtually to have that option for themselves as well. They will be going back March 29th for the Cesar Chavez celebration in person, but they also want the flexibility of virtual, not only for the public, but for their own circumstances as well.
Thanks, Jill.
Are there any other comments? Don't leave us, Lauren, at the rate we're going here. Stick with us. Any other comments?
I guess I just have a comment to Jill about that. Do you have a sense, or does your office or anyone in the county have a sense of Gavin Newsom rescinding that? emergency order anytime soon?
You know, I don't have a crazy 8-ball anymore, so I can't answer that.
I don't follow it closely, so I just thought maybe you would know. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. I guess we will now move on. We're going to move now on our agenda. It'll be item number 6. And we're going to discuss a CAB membership and nominations from the Outreach and Community Engagement Committee. Let me start with the first. We have with us, we are recommending approval for Lenita Mims. If you go to page 28 and 29 of your agenda packet. And let me share with you one thing that stood out. You have to excuse me, I've got a phone ringing here. Let's start with Lenita Mims. She's been personally touched by our social service system and adoptive services and the justice system. And I'd like to ask Lenita to maybe share with the group, in addition to that comment, please share what else motivates you to become a member of CAB. The floor is yours, Lenita.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. So my name is Lenita Mims. I live in Oakley, California. I've been here in Contra Costa County for about 17 years now. I found the information on the CAB online while I was researching something for the Arts Commission, because I also sit on the Arts Commission. But the CAB was near and dear to me because my family has been touched by almost every community of care or system of care in California. And currently being touched with my son and my husband, who my son is home, but my husband is still incarcerated. And so dealing with reentry and all the pieces of how to put his life back together once he returns has been very challenging. And so I have joined a couple of support groups. And one of the things that I noticed about the CAB is that I would like to get involved with the programs and outreach committees, because there's not a lot of information here for me to get in terms of helping my husband when he returns. And so I figured if I got involved with the CAB, that I would get information, and I would also be able to give some information. So I help wives who have husbands that are incarcerated write petitions to the new laws. I also help them find work. And we also write letters of support for a parole board and things like that. So that's why I'm interested.
Lenita, thank you very much. May we now go to any questions from our board for Lenita?
This is Lila, and I have a question.
Hi, Lila.
Hi, Lenita. Thank you so much for coming today. And I was just curious if you could say a little bit more about what your experience helping folks get employment looks like and where that's come from.
So I work for the Adaptive Learning Center, where I am the employment coordinator here, and I help here with people who have disabilities or live on the spectrum of autism find work. But I also do job search and job development in my personal life on the side to help people develop where they want to go or how to figure out what they're good at. I have a lot of different techniques that we use. One is called the My Next Move in Life survey, where they take the survey and it tells them what industry they're good in and what they could potentially work, what industry they could potentially work in. And I also use that here at ALC. I also have 3 memberships where I am a member, because I'm a small business owner. I'm a member of the chambers, of 2 of the chambers, and ALC is a member of the other 3. And so I know a lot of small businesses, and I leverage my relationships so that people have a bigger pool of people searching for jobs, and I try to help people find the right match.
Thank you so much. And it might be on the materials that you provided, but can you remind me where the ALC is located?
ALC is here at 3227 Clayton Road in Concord.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lenita.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question there, Lila. Appreciate it. Any other questions from board members?
Yeah, this is Dale. Lenita, thank you so very, very much for stepping forward. Lenita, I have a question. Based on your experience here, are there some unmet needs that clearly present themselves where services might be needed?
Hi, Dale. And the answer to that is yes. I have gone through all of the materials online. I looked at all of the materials that you guys handed out in the retreat, and I don't see a place where there's a strategic plan for like family involvement, or I don't see a place where there's a lot of reentry services that are provided, but there's no place where there's like one-on-one kind of, this is what you do next, like a toolkit of reentry. So let me say this, reentry starts before they actually are released, right?
Yes.
And so there's an inside toolkit that tells them, okay, in 30 days, you'll get your California ID. In 30 days, you'll get this. In 30 days, you'll get that. But there's nothing that matches for the family members outside that are preparing for the loved ones, our loved ones, to reach out or to match up, because they aren't going to be able to get their birth certificate in 30 days inside. They have to get it once they're here. But those are things that family members could do. So I want to try to help bridge that gap and try to help create like a tool list of what family members can do 6 months out before their family member comes home or before their loved one comes home. And that's really important to me. The other thing is there's not a lot of support for families that are going to visits or going to do family visits or learning how to put the money on the phone so that they can talk to their loved ones and things like that. So it's a lot of basic stuff that I didn't see in there. And maybe this is not the basic group, that could be, but there's a lot of things that our folks here in Contra Costa County struggle with and are challenges.
Wow. Well, even if there are not some, even if we can't do all of those, we should be able to communicate that kind of thing to decision makers that can. So thank you so very, very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm actually glad to see the audience though of the vast majority of folks from all over parts of correction and courts and county. This is really the great group where I think that those decisions could be made. So I'm happy to hopefully be a part.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Lenita. Any other questions for Lenita from the board? Nicole P., do you see any hands? I don't see any on my screen. I want to double check with you.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Thank you. Then let's move to any questions from the public at large. Are there any questions from the public? None. I don't see any. Would you verify for me, please, Nicole, that there are no questions
No
from the public?
hands that I see.
Okay, now from a process standpoint, do we vote on all three of them or do we vote on them independently? Such as now, does the vote go up for Lenita now, or do we do all of them as a group?
It's up for you to decide.
Well, why don't we make it simple? Why don't we make it simple? Since we do have 3 vacancies, let's go through all 3 of them and let's see how each of those plays out. The next person, I believe, who do you have there? Scott Parsons?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If you'll go to your packets, you'll see on page 33 and 34, you're up, Scott. And one thing that stood out during your interview, it was your background of 40 years in law enforcement and wanting to see law enforcement being more in touch with those returning as they re-enter society, and not if there is a situation after individuals have returned. Just wanted to share that comment that stood out that you made, Scott. And would you please share any other comments with us, if you may, please?
Sure, and I'll try to keep it brief. You know, I feel blessed that I had the career that I did, and I'm proud to have had that career and to have come out of it after 40 plus years and not been damaged. You know, when you're in law enforcement, you see a lot that you wish you didn't see. I feel blessed in that I've been able to process a lot of situations that were terribly adverse and come out of it and keep my positive attitude and my joy for the human experience, for my fellow man and woman out there in society. So when, just like Lanita, I saw this when I was online, this position, and it stirred me because, yeah, I've seen a lot of people incarcerated in my career. That was a part of my job. But I also wanted to see every one of those people, with minor exception, have the opportunity to come back out of incarceration and be successful and to gain traction and to have a life that doesn't mean going back and doesn't require going back. And I feel law enforcement can do more. And I don't blame, by the way, law enforcement in itself. The system has law enforcement kind of handcuffed in certain ways, no pun intended, from extending beyond that immediate role of enforcement. And I would love to be a part of this group and to also see if I can touch a policy or two that helps those that have been incarcerated come out and feel pride and certainly no shame, and feel that they're not a target and that they be successful back acclimating into society. So ding, that's the end of my my formal words there.
Well, Scott, thank you. And you know what, I remember your ding when we were going through the interview, because we had this little system where we said, now remember, you're on the elevator and when it dings, you're done. So yes. Scott, thank you for the ding. Thank you for the comments. Let's go to the board. Are there any comments, particularly questions for Scott prior to moving forward? Any questions, please?
Yeah, this is Dale. Scott, in your experience, are there needed services that could or should be provided during incarceration to help make a parole or release more successful?
So in looking historically, the system has, either if it was county jail or if it's the prison system, has gotten better and better over time with providing some of those services. I would say this: there's still a stigma for a person that has done time, and if we can start to erode that stigma by having services, particularly when you're nearing release and you're going back into society, to provide tools. And, we prepare people for a lot of things in life. What we don't prepare those that have been incarcerated very well for is all those challenges that they're going to be met with. Whether it be shame, whether it be a family member or neighbors that shun them, whether it's employers that choose not to move a person forward in the hiring process. So I would like to see assessments done for everyone that's coming out to help them to anticipate the challenges and to have solutions for those challenges so that they can get that traction and get their life back on track. And
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Scott. Let's still verify. Do we have any other board members that might have questions of Scott?
I'll come off mute
Lila,
with a little, yeah, got the Zoom hand raised. Thank you, Scott, so much for coming and for applying and already speaking with the outreach subcommittee. I was curious, and hopefully this question is open and folks from ORJ can let me know if it's not. I'm curious to know what community you spent a majority of the 40 years in law enforcement in?
Sure. Excuse me. It happened to be with the office of the sheriff, 29 of those. And so the majority was all over the county, from North Richmond to Discovery Bay, from, Rodeo to San Ramon. And I think that was part of what I really cherished about being with the sheriff's department, is because you got all over. You're not just working in one enclave, you're working in many. And in the office of the sheriff, I had the opportunity to be the first one to, under Sheriff Roop, to put together a hate crimes investigations unit. I had the opportunity to be in a command position and a practitioner in community relations and building, community support for law enforcement. And if you remember back to the LA riots, one of the things that we most were concerned about when certain verdicts were going to be read aloud is that it may trigger another set of riots, just like the LA riots. And because we work closely with churches and the community and community groups and our allied agencies, probation, and it goes on and on, I was pleased that we didn't have one skirmish as a result of verdicts being read. And so that gives you an example of where law enforcement community relations can work to minimize issues and problems. But I was the chief of police in Orinda, but I was also the assistant patrol division commander at one point for the sheriff, which was every community. And a final assignment was with the Office of Emergency Services, where I touched every community in this county and all the different agencies that are under the Office of Emergency Services.
Great, thank you so much, Scott. I'm kind of torn between two more follow-up questions. Maybe I can ask.
You ask whatever you want. I have a sense of humor, and an appropriate one, by the way. So hey.
Okay.
You can't, yeah, go for it.
I'll ask them both then. I'll just put them both out there. I think the first question is where you observed racism within the system. You mentioned the system earlier, so that is one question. And then while you answer that, luckily maybe I'm forgetting my second question.
Oh, well, hopefully you think of the other one, but did I see systemic racism? Is that the question in law enforcement?
Or where you observed racism, you know, within the system?
Sure. Well, you know, and I've given presentations on this subject, and my answer may not fulfill some people's expectation, but yeah, in the whole 40 years, I saw very few people in the criminal justice system that were racist and started their day and ended their day hoping to treat people differently. But I did see people treated differently. And it wasn't from willful design as much as the way the system responded often to incidences and things that occur. And so reforms, I don't see it as an attack as much on individuals that are racist as a system that we need to be aware that can steer certain individuals into custody more easily than others. And has that gotten far better than when I first started in the 70s? Oh, there's no question. Is there much greater accountability? Yes. Is the training far superior today than what it was in the 70s? No question about it. The selection process for law enforcement, that's an area that I have a lot of familiarization because I did it for federal law enforcement as well as when I was with the Office of the Sheriff. We have significant screening processes, but occasionally a person will slip through. And what I am proud of is that whenever we saw it, I say we took action against it. And I think we're maybe in the 70s, in the 80s, there was not that thin blue line that people talk about. Of course existed, as it does in every profession. Now, I think because of training and awareness, law enforcement management and the practitioners, the law enforcement officers themselves, take a much stronger role in weeding out somebody that may be inherently biased. I hope I didn't over answer that, but it's an area that I did you think of your other question? Or?
I did think of my other question. Does anybody else on the board have another question before I ask another one, since I've already got some questions in there?
Sure, Lila. Terrence.
Okay.
Scott, I see that you're very seasoned with law enforcement. And as it comes down to policy, you've been a chief, you've worked alongside of, like you said, the variations of levels. With policies as it related to the past and now, can you see or have you really thought, well, I would put it this way, in reference to policy and things changing with the paradigm shift, do you think that not only the necessaries from the old to the new, but do you think that things will continue to change as we go and not be at a standstill?
So I do actually think that things will continue to only get better. There's one area that gives me great concern, though, and you know, after the Derek Chauvin situation, the support for law enforcement really diminished, and there were a lot of attacks, and it became kind of a them and us. And I saw law enforcement kind of retreating. And if from a policy standpoint, we can help bring law enforcement and the community closer and get that bond and respect back, we're going to be far better served. Because I think right now law enforcement has, the pendulum swung, and it went from law enforcement being treated almost like saints, and then all of a sudden the villains, the truth is somewhere in between usually. So do I think it's going to get better? Absolutely. And I would, if I can use the example of Minneapolis PD, and I did deal with them a little bit in my federal career, how that didn't surface sooner before that tragic day by their internal policies and procedures is beyond me. And so when we talk about policies, we want policies that bring accountability, and we also want policies that give us some hope for the future where we can work together. And I think we're headed there, but still the feelings are still raw by many in the community and by law enforcement. So I'm not going to be naive and act like, oh yeah, this is going to be a cakewalk. But it's clearly we're going to get back on the road of stronger relations, more accountability, and more respect. Good God. I mean, that is what's really important for everybody, to include that incarcerated person that's coming out and having to acclimate in society. That person deserves respect too. And I hold to that as much as I think the law enforcement officer deserves respect.
Scott, thank you. Lila, did you have another question? Because if there are others, maybe we could go to some others and then circle back to you, Lila, if that would be okay. Are there any other questions before we circle back to Lila? I think, any other questions from board members? Because we do have certain time constraints, and if we go over, guess what? This is a good discussion. Hey, we'll live with it. Okay, we're back to you, Lila.
Great. Scott, I'm just, this is the Community Advisory Board, and I'm just wondering how you would define, the community that you're looking to represent on this board.
Well, it certainly extends beyond Moraga. I'm looking at my application, so you probably see that as well on the board there. I look at my community to be the whole county. And so that I'm not just blowing wind there. I mean, I just spent a lot of time outside of Moraga in Pittsburgh at the Family Harvest Farm, working with kids that are aging out of foster care and foster support. And though they weren't incarcerated, some of them, and one in particular, did have an ankle bracelet. And I garnered a lot of respect with that individual, working alongside with him out there. So please don't look at Moraga as if, that's what I think my role is to represent Moraga. It's to represent every citizen in Contra Costa.
Thank you for answering all of my questions. I appreciate it, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lila. Hey, you're nailing it, Lila. Love the questions. Scott, thank you. Now, wait a minute. Before we go on, we always have public comment. Any comment for the public before we go on to the next applicant? Again, any public comment? Going once, going twice. All right. Okay, next individual, our next applicant. The next applicant, ladies, gentlemen, on page 38 through 40 there is Terry Dunn. Terry, who was with us, one thing stood out during our interview, and that was you had seen the impact of trauma on family members of those who were incarcerated. And when I heard that from you, when our committee heard that from you, when I looked at the screens, I like to look at the screens and see the reactions of individuals. And you hit a home run, Terry. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about that impact on the families.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning. Baseball's on strike, so I won't be hitting any home runs right now. Unfortunately. Go Giants. Yeah, I'm a semi-retired educator. I currently have a small online direct tutoring business, but I spent over 20 years as a math and science teacher and elementary school principal, and some of those years also as a continuation high school administrator. Many of those students had interactions with law enforcement and also had mental health issues. My work in the elementary schools, well, through all the schools, I had the experience of working with kids who had family members who were incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. And I just got to experience how that rippled through these children and impacted their lives and their learning. From the youngest all the way through the high school. So a lot of my work at the school as an administrator really ended up being about trauma care, letting the teachers teach, trusting them as the experts inside the classroom, and then me trying to get services wrapped around the kids as their traumas were spilling out in a place where they felt safe by building a school community. The other things that I'm involved with, I happen to serve on the board of the Adaptive Learning Center. I've since learned that's where Lenita works. I came onto the board during the pandemic, so haven't had a chance to meet the employees yet, just worked with the director. And I also participate in Faith in Action East Bay. I'm a member of a church in Oakland, Plymouth Jazz and Justice Church, and through that church, I serve on a Reimagining Public Safety committee that I facilitate. Faith in Action East Bay has a strong presence. It's a national group, but it has a strong presence in Alameda County, and they've already achieved some significant positive results for reentry of the incarcerated folks to make sure all their services are in place the day they walk out the door. I don't know that that's as much the case in Contra Costa. Another area that I'm working with them in is in support of a homeless community that's in Richmond. We're trying to work with their rights and with the city. And again, there's a lot of healing and trauma there. So one of my areas of concern is mental health services, making sure that folks who are incarcerated get healed and that their families get services and that the transitions are smooth and supported, so recidivism is able to decrease. Ding. I think that's the top of my elevator. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? By the way, thank you so very much, Terry. Appreciate your comments. Let's go to the board. Are there any questions from the board? any questions, let me repeat that, from the board, just in case you're having difficulty like I seem to have all the time with mute, unmute, and then you get a notification that your Wi-Fi isn't strong or whatever.
Yeah.
Terry, this is Dale.
Thank you.
A lot of the students that you worked with they were round pegs that were that the public wanted to put into square holes.
Indeed.
And my experience through the years was that a lot of those students were misrepresented or misdiagnosed.
Indeed.
They didn't fit the mold, and so then they were shoved aside and rejected. And I know that you experienced that, and I think that's important for us in a lot of ways to keep in mind, that just because someone is different doesn't mean that they're wrong.
Absolutely. And at the one continuation high school I was a part of, especially, we re-envisioned it, not just as a place to catch up, and get back into the square hole, but actually as an alternative learning center where, we recognized what the needs of the students were and what the learning styles were and what the interests were. And so there could be some tailoring, to fit the person, instead of trying to knock the corners off the person to get them in that square hole, to use your metaphor. Yeah. We could talk for many hours about possible reforms in the education system to support the gifts and learning styles of the students, and how that unfortunately gets stepped on a lot in our current antiquated models.
Thank you for that question, Dale. Do you by chance have any others, or are there other members of our board who have the desire to ask Terry a question?
I see Lila's hand up.
Okay, Lila, go for it.
And I'm glad. I was feeling a little left out there, Lila. So.
Yeah. That's right. I know. Equity is important, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Terry, for sharing. And, it's been great, to see you participating in other meetings as well. And, I know that folks have time that you're already investing. My question is really around, if you had to identify one area of realignment, I know you mentioned mental health, but if you were to stay, reliable and committed and show up to all of the board meetings for the next 3 years, what is one thing that you would want to look back and see that was accomplished?
I would want to make sure that we were using every tool of the board, or developing those we needed to make sure that incarcerated folks had mental health supports and access to their services as they transition. So, just really focusing on the needs of the folks that we're called to serve.
Thank you, Terry. I don't
You're
have
welcome.
any more questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Lila. But the floor is always open to you, Lila. So if you think of another one, fire up. Okay, again, any other board members? Any potential questions? One more time, let's make sure we give everybody an opportunity to participate. Nicole P., I don't see anyone. Let's move to the public then. May we have any questions, comments, etc., from the public at large? Oh, Jill, hello, good morning. Oh, you're on
There I
mute.
am muted. I know, I got it. I just wanted to say how impressed I am with these 3 applicants. I think the depth and breadth of knowledge across the board in the various areas that haven't been touched on this CAB in the past is exciting. And I just wanted to thank each of the applicants for the time today. I know it's not always easy. Sometimes some boards do the same question for each person. And I think that the way each of you handled your questions and the knowledge that came out of your answers is impressive. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. Any other comments from the public? Nicole P., do you see any
I do not see any other hands up.
from the public? Okay, well, that being said, why don't we take one step back? I may have been remiss by saying voting for all as a group. Let's just go if we could, we'll vote for each one independently and move right down the ladder. I think that may be more appropriate. And what I think if there's a motion, if we could, for Lenita Mims. We'll start with Lenita. Is there a motion for approval for Lenita Mims to be accepted for the CAB board or nominated for the CAB board? May I have a motion?
This is Dale. I move.
Oh, go ahead, Dale. I second it then.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second of the motion by Dale, by
It doesn't matter what order.
There you go, whatever the order is. We have a second and a motion. Is there any further discussion by the board? Is there any comment from the public? Without seeing any, will you call the roll, please? Nicole P.
Sure. I just want to let you know Ozzy's not here at this moment. So Crawford, I'm going to start with you.
Aye.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Yes.
Mark,
Aye.
Cole,
Aye.
Dr. Cole.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
And thank you. Lenita, welcome to the fold.
I just wanted to state too, this is a voting member seat, since we do have 3 voting vacancies for voting members. So for all these applicants today, it would be for a voting member.
Thank you very much for that information.
So just to clarify, a regular member versus an alternate.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, the next applicant, Scott Parsons. May we have a motion for Scott Parsons to be considered as a member, a permanent member of CAB? Is there a motion?
I motion it.
We have a motion. Is there a second for Scott Parsons?
I second it. It's Terrence.
Thank you, Terrence. Is there any further? We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion regarding Scott Parsons' potential membership with CAB? Are there any comments from the public at large? Not seeing any. May you please call the vote? Nicole
I just
P.
wanted to highlight that I failed to ask Mark Thomas for his vote for the last applicant, Lenita. I don't know if this is against the Brown Act, but if we can just get his vote on that.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Hey, listen. Hey, a little messy the first time around, but we'll get this son of a gun right.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, so I will start with you, Crawford.
Aye.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Yes.
Mark,
Aye.
Nicole Green,
Aye.
Dr. Cole.
Aye.
Did I miss anyone? Oh, I think we got everybody. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
And thank you.
Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Again, another welcome to the fold here. And we have our final applicant, Terry Dunn. And is there a motion for Terry Dunn to become a permanent voting member of CAB?
I move that he become a member.
Thank you, Mark.
I'll
I s-
second.
There you go.
Okay,
Dale?
thank you, Dale. Thank you, Nicole, of being our wing person there. Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion from the public at large?
Not seeing any hands.
All right, may we have a vote? Could you call the roll, please, Nicole P?
Crawford,
Aye.
Dale,
Aye.
Lila,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Nicole,
Aye.
Dr. Cole.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Well, I'm going to take a deep breath. I don't know about the rest of you. Phew. As we stated
Have a
earlier,
full board.
yeah, as we stated earlier, help is on the way. So, Lanita, Scott, Terry, thank you once, thank you twice, thank you 3 times, since there are 3 of you. So we'll be getting back to you as to the process. We now have to formally submit your names to CCP. And we got to get this thing moving forward. Our process is a little antiquated, and maybe we can speed it up some dead blame way in the future, but who knows? But thank you very much. May we move?
Just real one quick thing, because I know that the date isn't on the bottom of your agenda, but the next CC meeting is April 1st at 10:30 a.m.
They
So it'll
confirmed it.
move.
Okay, cool.
It'll move faster than you think.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you for
Wonderful.
confirming that, Jill. We had not had confirmation in our office.
Oh,
We had it tentatively scheduled, so it's great to hear that April 1st, we're on for the CCP. That's great.
well, here's the problem though. Lanita, Scott, and Terry, you got to buckle up now because we're going to be rolling here starting in April. So,
I am going to post in our chat because we still do have 3 alternates to fill. If folks can let your networks know, this office will as well. And there's a link to our online application for CAB.
And if you all could reach out to District 1 and beg and plead for them to put the word out, because I think you guys are seriously lacking in West County applicants.
Yeah, Jill, you name it, we have done it in West County, from calling personally. We've contacted the state representative over there, the Senate representative. We've contacted the supervisor, the mayor's office, but we're not giving up. And we found another contact that we're trying to work with out of, believe it or not, the Diablo Valley Community College. They may be able to assist us in that county. So, hey, we're trying like the Dickens.
Maybe you need to stand on a corner with a sandwich board, Crawford.
Hey, Dale, we'll do that if you go with me.
Jill, quickly, is the CCP meeting on at 10 a.m.?
10:30 a.m.
10:30, thank you.
Okay, we're running up on our time limit here, but I'd like to see if we could go through 1 or 2 quick things. Nicole P., maybe you can help me out here. We have to discuss the CAB retreat. Might we move that to another meeting, or do we want to go through that? Because I had a series of questions that we had talked about. Could we put that to another meeting, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation to give it due diligence would be to move it maybe to April.
Yes.
To give some time to that.
All right. I think
that, as far
that's,
as the report outs are concerned, I know all the subcommittees mostly focused on their work plan and are still working that out. If you want to kind of, I don't know if folks have a hard stop at 12. We want to run through the report outs fairly quickly.
why don't we do a quick run through of the report outs? I think because that's really, could be meat on the bone here for us. Could we start then with Jill, could you maybe help us with?
I will help you go super fast, Crawford.
Would you
because
please?
I sent Nicole this morning a list of the items that I pulled from the Board of Supervisors and the PPC, so she can share that with the group. I don't need to go through each one of them. There are, I think, some interesting items in there. The one thing, Nicole, that I didn't include in there that I forgot is at PPC, they discussed the Racial Justice Oversight Body is having significant issues with data. Because as the ORJ is in probation, so there's hesitancy to use their data people to go through, evaluate the data from outside agencies. And so the PPC, Supervisor Anderson was the only one present, requested that the county administrator's office figure out how to transfer the duties of the Racial Justice Oversight Body staffing to the county administrator's office sooner rather than later, because the question is the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice is taking a little bit longer to lift up than anticipated. So to transfer those duties over to the county administrator's office to ensure that data collection and evaluation can move forward, because that's a huge piece in all that you guys are doing, as well as a variety of other areas of the county are evaluating, you know, things that can be done to address the racial disparity in the criminal justice system. So, so that's the big thing that I forgot to include on those notes, Nicole, but other than that, I'll just let her send them out to the group and you can all review. And if, of course, as always, if there's ever any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Jill, thank you. Can we go to the Quality Assurance Subcommittee or committee? Just a quick update from Monique.
Okay, Nicole, can you go to the report out? It was a very short meeting. And basically they did AB 109 updates. Our data team, Denise, provided some updates. The group determined if they wanted to they wanted to clarify if the data should be based on prior years service and data, and then should it be detailed quarterly. Data information to prepare for the next community report. That was something that was discussed. And one of the QUAC members, Dr. Suzanne, asked about the micro innovation grants, if they're still available, and Patrice, our director, confirmed that they are still available. And Patrice gave updates on our RFPs, the process that we just went through. So for the micro information innovative grants, we do have a link on our website, and I can post that in the chat, or I can send it out to the group or provide it for the next meeting. So that concludes it, the report.
Thank you very much, Monique. Let's go to the other one. This would be, I guess, under my purview here. This would be outreach and community engagement. We'll make it quick. We interviewed Terry Dunn, Lanita Mims, and Scott Parsons. And by George, I think we did a decent job. They're now members. I have completed my report out on outreach and community engagement. Can we move to my wing person, Nicole Marie Green?
I'm gonna get used to you saying my middle name. Yes, I'll make it fairly quick. We have some more items that we need to look over in reference to the subcommittee. We're looking into the Measure X fund. So we want to kind of get more of an idea about that before we make any more decisions to our work plan. So on our next call is really to revisit our work plan and come up with some final decisions regarding our goals for 2022. And that's my quick report out.
That wasn't long enough, Nicole. You sure you don't have something else to say?
No, you said quick.
Okay, I'm the next one up. I'm in the queue here. This is the report. And again, if you'll go to page 46 and 47 in your packet, it is detailed. Let me give you two highlights. Number one, we will add mental health and folks with disabilities as priority populations in our work plan. So we have got that nailed down potentially. The second item we discussed the racial justice oversight body and ways to interface with that committee and their diversion subcommittee. That's the report. There's more detail if you'll go to your packet. And then finally here, we have one more report out. That report out will be for the Holistic Defense Intervention Partnership. It's known as HIP. And let me give you one or two quick highlights. They had a housing presentation, and some clients do not, where they pointed out that some clients do not want to be released because they don't have permanent housing. And that was kind of eye-opening for me. And another good point that I think we got out of listening to this is that Jeff Landau from the Public Defender's Office is the person who deals with mental health and issues for those type of impacted individuals. And he would be a good contact for us at CAB. And then finally, they had an example of a breakout case where they covered a success story pertaining to a lady looking for housing. And she had a restraining order against her. They were able to successfully intervene and get housing for that lady. And that's my report. I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. But before we conclude, this is going to be a little unsettling, but only for a moment or two. I think we've got a doggone good team here in place. And I think now it's what is it? We got to see who's going to step up. We've got some more sources. I think we can all take one step in the right direction. And that step is going to be to attend all of these doggone meetings. Once we attend our meetings, we get our legs underneath us, we're going to be ready to go. And for all board members, don't be surprised if you get personal calls from Nicole Green, from me, and from Lila. And one of the things we want to do as starting off is we want to make sure we're reaching out, and we want to make sure that we're doing this the right way. So we're going to divvy up the board members, and I may call 4 or 3. Nicole will call 3 potentially, and Lila, just to say one simple question: how are we doing and what can we do better? And that's all we want to know. So thank you. And can we have a motion to adjourn our meeting? Somebody better give us
Motion. I'm coming.
Yeah, you adjourned it, Crockett. We're good.
Okay, all is good, and thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.